I really want to thank Greg and the association for inviting me here. I'm really here for a couple of reasons. Ariadne Balsamas. You don't say no to Ariadne. She's been after me for 6 months to do this. We spent, as many of you know, many years working together at the John F. Kennedy Presidential Library, very close by. And she did a terrific job there, and I'm very, very grateful that she kept after me and asked me to do this, and I'm glad to be here. I'm also here, Maura Hammer's here, Kristen from the library. We have a good contingent here from the JFK Library. I urge everybody, if you haven't been there, or you haven't been there recently, get over there. It'll renew your faith in your mission, I'll tell you that, by getting over and see what President Kennedy stood for over 50 years ago in saying what you guys know. Every individual can make a difference. Every individual. And then there's the third reason I'm here, to spend just a few minutes, frankly, to thank you and to join you for an all too frequent few minutes, to thank you for all you do for this country. Let me tell you that we live in a time, and you know it, when it comes to government, there are mushrooming deficits, limited resources, shrinking budgets. The role that the nonprofits play in our country is more important than ever before. More important than ever before. I've learned over the past 25 years, 9/11, BP, GM, One Fund Boston, Newtown, Connecticut, Aurora, Colorado, I've learned two important lessons among many. Never, ever underestimate the charitable impulse of the American people. It is astounding to me to watch after a tragedy how the American people rise up, donate money, express empathy, offer to help. There is no nation on earth that has the degree of charity, not only money, but giving of time and resources. There is nothing like it. The second lesson I've learned, relevant to today, all of these programs that I work on, all of these tragedies where policymakers ask me to design and administer compensation, none of them, none would work without the dedicated help and support of nonprofits around this country. People sometimes think, in 9/11, for example, Congress passes a law, and the law says that anybody who lost a loved one at the World Trade Center, the Pentagon, the airplanes, can voluntarily come in and get money, taxpayer money, from the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund. People, I'm not sure, people didn't fully appreciate the role of the Robin Hood Foundation, the Twin Towers Fund, the United Way, the American Red Cross, other private charities that coordinated and supplemented what they were doing with the work of the 9/11 Fund. It's a very interesting thing that I've learned. You know, I'm introduced as somebody who deals with compensation in times of tragedy. You know, I roll in, I do my job, I distribute funds, and I roll out. Done. I'm finished. Every day, 365 days a year, the people in this room, labor in the vineyard. You do what is so critically important to our country in helping raise funds, set up programs, design programs, implement them. You're not in the public eye. You work behind the scenes, often for very little credit. You are, however, I know, an essential part of a program, national program, designed to assure that innocent victims of tragedy will be provided for. That people who have no power, no ability to fend for themselves, little in the way of compensation, little in the way of wherewithal, nevertheless, there is a system in this country that is sort of a appendage to the social safety net that is government, Social Security, Medicare, workers' comp, etc. And none of these programs that I work on, none of them would work in providing what is really necessary if it wasn't for these private charities and private nonprofit institutions around this country that make it work, and too often don't receive the credit. I told Ariadne when she invited me to come here, I may have mentioned to Craig, I think 90% of each of you, I think you have to be like shrinks. I mean, I think what you do, I think it's largely, a lot of it is like psychiatry in dealing with vulnerable people. Now, it's interesting. These assignments that I get from policymakers, President Obama, BP, President Bush, 9/11, Mayor Menino and Governor Patrick, One Fund Boston, Governor Hickenlooper, Aurora, Colorado, the Dark Knight movie shooting, Governor Malloy in Connecticut, Newtown, Virginia Tech, the Hokie Spirit Memorial Fund. All of these programs, I try and explain to people when they ask me all the time, wow, this must be really difficult. How stressful. What a challenge. How do you do it? And here's my answer. It is stressful, and it is a challenge. But the design and the day-to-day mechanics of these programs, it's not such a big deal. It's not that complex. It's not rocket science. There are hundreds of people in this room at this luncheon that could do exactly what I do, and maybe, frankly, even better. I'm asked to do it, I'll do it. But I'm asked, is your law degree a big help in these programs? No. It's largely a wash, I think. Better a divinity degree. Better a degree in psychiatry, because you see, the problem I have to address, the common denominator in all of these cases where I design these programs, is a problem that you deal with every day. The emotion, you see. The emotion that goes with and colors tragedy. It's not designing or calculating awards. That's not so stressful. The stress is when you offer to meet with any victim or family member who lost a loved one. You offer to meet with them one-on-one to discuss anything that's on their mind. The emotion, the horrific, chilling nature of the tragedy gives rise, when you meet privately with victims. Despite all the generosity, despite the philanthropic spirit, despite the sense of community, it really avails you nothing when you meet one-on-one with a mother or a father who lost a son at the World Trade Center, or somebody who lost a son because of a GM defective ignition switch, somebody who was attending Virginia Tech and never survived the shootings in that classroom. Parents who come to see me who lost a first grader in Newtown, Connecticut. The emotional horror of those meetings is what really poses an unbelievable challenge to my ability to get through the day. I've learned a couple of interesting aspects about human nature which most of you knew years ago and in your daily professional lives. First, when you meet with somebody who suffered a terrible loss, nobody comes to see me to talk about money. Nobody. It's not on their radar screen, money. They come to see me for two reasons. One, with me present, they want to vent about life's unfairness. Mr. Feinberg, I lost my son. He was driving an automobile, 17 years old. He was going to go to college. Now he's gone. Where's the justice, Mr. Feinberg? My son is gone, and you're here to offer me money? Bring my son back. Where is the justice? There is no God. No God could allow this to happen. I will never again step foot in a church. It is, to me, no God could allow this. My son is gone. And people want to vent on and on about life's unfairness. And you become a very, very good listener. Because there's nothing you can say, nothing, that will temper that anger, that frustration, that disappointment, that uncertainty. Nothing. Or people come to see me not to vent, not to talk about money, but to validate the memory of a lost loved one. This is a big thing with people in grief. Mr. Feinberg, I'm glad I'm here. I was married for 25 years to my wife. She died in the World Trade Center. And I'd like to start my hearing with you by showing you a video of our wedding 25 years ago. Well, Mr. Jones, you don't have to do that. It'll have no bearing on compensation. It will be very emotional, and you're going to listen. Watch. I want you to see what those murderers did to my angel. I want you to watch that video, how beautiful she looked on our wedding day. There's nothing you can say. People want to validate. Let's not forget this person. Let's remember her. So in all of these matters, whenever I take on an assignment, I think most of you know this, brace yourself. Brace yourself. Because the stories you're going to hear and the anger that's going to be exhibited is really chilling. And you're really powerless to do anything about that anger other than provide solace in the way of a check, which I must say is not a very adequate substitute for loss. But it's the American system, it's generosity, it's all we can do. Now, when you invite people to meet with me, you hear some stories that are disbelief. They shake you to your core. 9/11, 24-year-old woman comes to see me sobbing. Mr. Feinberg, I lost my husband at the World Trade Center. He was a fireman, and he left me with our 2 children, 6 and 4. Now you're going to give me $3 million. I want it in 30 days. Mrs. Jones, you want it in 30 days. I mean, we got to go, this is taxpayer money. I got to go to the Treasury. We got to verify. 30 days, I want the money. Why do you need the money in 30 days? Why? I'll tell you why. I have terminal cancer. I have 10 weeks to live. My husband was going to survive me and take care of our 2 children. Now they're going to be orphans. I've got to get that money while I have my faculties. I've got to set up this program, and I've got to get everybody set up before I can't do it anymore. Well, we accelerated the money. 8 weeks later, she died. I mean, you can't believe this. You can't believe this. A 25-year-old woman comes to see me, sobbing. I thought she was going to faint in my office. Mr. Feinberg, I lost my husband. He was a fireman. He left me with our 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2. He was Mr. Mom. Every day that he wasn't at the firehouse, he was home teaching the 6-year-old how to play baseball, teaching the 4-year-old how to read, reading a bedtime story to the 2-year-old. What a cook! He cooked all our meals. He was the gardener around the house. He was Mr. Mom. Mr. Feinberg, the only reason I don't jump out a window to join him is our 3 children. But Mr. Mom is gone. My life is over. I'm going through the motions. I will never be the same. She leaves. The next day, I get a telephone call from a lawyer in Queens. Mr. Feinberg, did you meet yesterday with the woman with the 3 kids, 6, 4, and 2, and Mr. Mom? I go, yes. Horrible. He goes, now, you know, Mr. Feinberg, look, you got a tough job. I don't envy what you're doing. It's not easy. But I got to tell you, she doesn't know that Mr. Mom has 2 other kids by his girlfriend in Queens, 5 and 3. And I represent the girlfriend. And I got to tell you, when you cut your check from the 9/11 fund, there's not 3 surviving children, there's 5 surviving children. But I'm sure you'll do the right thing. Click, he hangs up. Do you tell her? Do you tell her about the 2 other kids? Or do you shut up? What do you do? That's what keeps me up at 3 a.m., you see. Now, we never told her. We cut one. I'm not a family counselor. I don't know the facts. I'm a bureaucrat. I'm trying to get money out. We cut 1 check to her for herself and the 3 kids, and without telling her, we secretly cut a 2nd check to the girlfriend as the guardian of the 2 kids. That's it. But you understand better than I think just about any audience except maybe a group like this of priests and rabbis. You understand the real challenge in all of these programs. I don't know how you go about doing your day-to-day work, but I salute you for what you do. You see, charitable fundraising today, I think, is more important than ever. Than ever. There isn't enough compensation. Government can't do enough. There is a feeling that government is not the answer today, that its role should be diminished. Where is the help coming from? If not the nonprofit private world? Critically important today. Critically important. One Fund Boston is, as most of you know, the quintessential best example I have ever seen, read, or heard about when it comes to raising money from the private sector, 100% private, distributing the money in an efficient, streamlined way. One Fund Boston is the example. First, we raised in 60 days, 61 million. There's even more been raised. But in the 60 days after the marathon bombings, 61 million. Newtown, Connecticut, 11 million. Virginia Tech, 7 million. Aurora, Colorado, 5 million. One Fund Boston, 61 million. I mean, summa cum laude. I doubt there'll ever be a private nonprofit in 60 days. The mayor and the governor stepped up big time. Now we have 61 million. We distributed all 61 million in another 60 days. Gone. Out the door. Now, how did we do it? How did we structure a program that would get so much money distributed to 240 victims so quickly? What about speed? How did we do it in such an efficient, speedy, model way? The answer? Rough justice. Rough justice. Very rough. 4 people died as a result of the bombings. Every family who lost a loved one gets the same amount of money. I don't care whether it's the 8-year-old who died or the 35-year-old wage earner. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if one of the dead was a banker or a waiter. Everybody gets the same. All lives are equal. Well, shouldn't you give less to the banker than the waiter? No. I'm going to go tell the widow of the banker, you don't need the money. I'm not going to do that. I'm not slowing this process down. Everybody gets the same. What about physical injury? Physical injury? Well, there were 2 double amputees. There may have been 1 or 2 with permanent brain injury. They get the same as the dead. They have to carry on with no limbs. They're getting the same. Who says so? The fund says so. We think it should be different. You do it. I mean, there's no absolute. This is a judgment call. You can disagree. I think I have a better way. Then you do it. I have no pride of authorship. 1 limb lost, 1,125,000. And then after that, all we want to, don't send in medical records. We don't want medical records. Just send in your claim form with a letter from the hospital. How long were you in the hospital overnight? Hospitalization is a pretty good surrogate for seriousness of injury. If you were in the hospital 30 days or more, $1 million. 3 weeks, $750,000. 2 weeks, $500,000. 1 week, $250,000. Outpatient, $7,000. If you went to the emergency room and came home. That was the program. Rough justice. Now it's fascinating. One Fund Boston remembers that, One Fund Boston goes to the IRS and says, IRS, One Fund Boston, we immediately, overnight, want a 501c3 designation. IRS says, well, we read Feinberg's comments in the Globe, the loudmouth. He says that everybody's getting the same. That's not need. We can't give you that designation. We need distribution of charitable money based on need, not one size fits all. I said, you better change your rules. No, we can't. We got regs. We can't. You can't. I go to the mayor. I tell the mayor. the mayor reminds me that last week President Obama was here and he spoke at the church and he said that there's a little bit of Boston in every one of us, except the IRS, I guess. So I don't know who the mayor called, but we got that designation next day. And we distributed the funds in 60 days. Did we please everybody? We pleased nobody. Nobody's pleased. Hello, Mr. Feinberg. I wanted to come and see you. I lost my left leg at the marathon. But I can't come and see you because I'm still at Spalding rehab and I can't get over to see you. That's all right, Mr. Jones. I'll hop in a cab. I'll come over and see you. So I go over to Spalding, fabulous facility in Charlestown, the new facility. Fabulous institution. And I go up to his room. And I walk in, and there he is on a bed with his stump. On his lap is his 9-year-old son, and around the hospital bed is his mother, his wife, and his brother. I'm in trouble. Mr. Jones, you wanted to see me. I want you to know that you'll be receiving tax-free from One Fund Boston $1,125,000. Yeah? $1,125,000? I got a better idea, Mr. Feinberg. I'm glad you're here. Keep the money. Give me my leg back. How's that? How's that for a trade? Give me my leg back. Mr. Jones, I wish I had that power. I can't do it. All I can do is give you money. It is small solace, but it's all I can do. Yeah, great. That's it. I got out of there as fast as I could. Nothing you can say. In what I do, and I suppose many times what you do, you better be good listeners. You better be good listeners. I marvel at how you go about in tough times, raising these funds that are so essential to the health of the community in so many different ways. And when I meet with these people one-on-one and hear about their problems, it's very, very depressing. Now, the 9/11 Fund raised an interesting issue involving the nonprofits. The 9/11 Fund said that when I made my awards, I had to deduct from the gross amount any private giving, charity, life insurance, workers' comp, etc. That's what the law seemed to say. Well, I get a call from all of the charities in New York City, the Robin Hood Foundation, the Twin Towers Fund, and I go to a meeting about 50 people from different charities in New York. And they said, Mr. Feinberg, we read your statute, your regulations. Are you going to deduct from your award what we give to firemen's widows and private victims? Are you going to deduct that from your taxpayer-funded award? I said, well, we're thinking about it. Stop thinking about it, Mr. Feinberg. If you do that, we're going to hold back raising money and distributing it until you distribute your money. Because we're not subsidizing the taxpayer. Our money is only going to be distributed if we know it's going to the people, victims, and is not going to subsidize the U.S. taxpayer. So you can do it either way. Either you can give your money and we'll hold ours back, or we'll give our money right away and you won't deduct it. Your choice. We're very charitable and we're very understanding. Do it either way, but let us know. Well, I blinked in 5 minutes. I could tell them, yeah, I'm going to be responsible for you holding money back. Forget it. I issued a regulation that we would deduct life insurance, but we would not deduct charity. And they distributed $2.5 billion in private giving. So I just want to conclude with a few final points. First, never underestimate the importance of what you are doing. I jumped at the chance to just thank everybody in this room. As I mentioned earlier, my role in this area is very, very limited. I get these very public programs to compensate people with basically unlimited budgets. I mean, that's, I've become a nationally known philanthropist with other people's money. It's sort of interesting. 9/11, no cap on the funds. Use your judgment. BP, 20 billion or whatever you need. Use your judgment. GM ignition switches. Use your judgment. No appropriated amount. Use your judgment. But I get done with these programs. I go back to what else I'm doing. You guys out hustling for money. And talk about a good cause. Essential. And one other point I want to make that Maura and Kristen and Ariadne and the others at the library understand. And why really today you're more important than ever. 50 years ago, when a fair-haired son of Massachusetts was president, John F. Kennedy, John F. Kennedy preached the importance of the public interest, of government, of serving the public interest, of public service. He told the nation that there is no role you can play as a citizen more important and more valuable than public service. In any way you take it, there are myriad ways to perform public service, direct, indirect. But it is so critical, and government is so critical in playing a basic role in advancing the social and health and welfare of the American people. And then he said, and every single individual, whatever you're doing, you can make a difference. Where is President Kennedy today? Where is that message today? It is almost an error for officials, elected or otherwise, to stand up and preach the critical, important role of government, public service, and not private gain and just private benefit. Where is the communitarian ethic that really guides so much of what you do? The communitarian ethic, giving back to your community. And what you do, and what the 9/11 Fund showed in times of a horrible tragedy, there still resides in this country a communitarian ethic. And how we promote it, and how we develop it and implement it. I, for one, try, and we all try at the library, to carry on that message. So I just want to tell you how I salute all of you, direct, indirect, raising funds, spending funds, finding ways to keep that private social safety net in place. I salute all of you for laboring in the vineyard, usually very much out of the public eye. But I got to tell you, without you and what you're trying to accomplish and the challenges that you're overcoming, this America would not be as great a place to live as it ought to be. And so I thank you all.